bringing you inside the USL Championship and League One.
Segmer's got there. Marquinhos! He's been knocking on the door. He knocks it down.
Diving into all the biggest stories and top headlines.
You are ripping and roaring today.
This is USL All Access.
It's almost impossible to recreate that level of magic.
With Mike Watts and Devon Kerr on Sirius XM FC.
Welcome, everybody, to a new edition of USL All Access. Very happy Tuesday night, wherever you might be. Coming up this week, the Phoenix Rising president, Bobby Dulle, joins us. We also take a look at one of the biggest deals in the history of the championship within the league as Philip Goodram is on the move. Plenty to react to from a weekend full of dramatic results. And also, we've got a little bit of Open Cup drama perhaps unfolding right in front of our very eyes. Mike Watts, Devon Kerr, Emmett McConnell at the controls as ever from the Sirius XM domicile. Devon, happy to be back with you, buddy. Here we go.
Always an absolute pleasure for you to open the show. I'm used to closing it on my own and getting myself thrown out. So to have someone actually head us in the right direction to begin with, knows that no matter what, you're always going to be the spotlight. You're going to be the bright light. This is great, Mike. I love it. This is fine.
Okay. I did turn on more light, and it's both blinding and necessary. So I don't know if that's the spotlight you're referring to.
Did you get makeup done before this episode?
I definitely did not.
Seems like things have run afoul over there, to be fair.
All right, Dev, we'll chat about it for sure. How about we start with the transfer news? This came through. You and I had known this was coming for a little while. We didn't quite know how it was going to break down. A number of teams were in on him. Philip Goodram, MVP finalist at Memphis, goes to Tulsa. Ultimately, it appeared he wanted out of that situation by the time this reached midseason. Louisville City, who have no love lost for Philip Goodram, ultimately swoop in, biggest intra-league transfer in league history. Let's just start with that. What more do you know about how this all came about?
My first thing would be is why do they say intra instead of inter?
Intra is within, inter is beyond. No?
I don't know the answer to that. That's why I'm asking you, Michael.
Okay.
Talked about it on air. Can tell you that multiple teams interested, very close with someone in the Western Conference, and basically the way this thing played out at the tail end of things was the player wanted to be in Louisville. That's how it worked out. The buyout clause, good on Louisville for recognizing it and understanding that this is an avenue not explored on a regular basis. You know, the example that I gave on Twitter when someone asked if this was a precedent set, no, not by any means. Certainly the financial backing of it, which I cannot disclose, I apologize, is something that people need to take notice of as it is the biggest one ever. But Chris Wehan, after he went to Orange County, going back to New Mexico United, Peter Trevisani, very clear about getting the hometown kid back to his hometown. That's away from California where he grew up, thought he was going home. They needed to keep him in New Mexico. I do think this is an avenue that other clubs need to be more proactive in to try and find a way to go and get that golden goose, and recognizing that although, yes, maybe in certain areas, options aren't aplenty, the striking position at Tulsa, anyone can be bought. And I mean that in the best of ways. It gives depth to the Louisville roster. It gives them even more versatility on the attacking front, and something to think about in your back pocket. With the level of consistency that we've seen out of Wilson Harris, I would not be shocked, because we've talked about a possibility of this in the future. I would not be shocked if Philip Goodram is the heir apparent, and maybe this is a little bit more writing on the wall for a Wilson Harris move in the future. That's me speculating. I do not know anything about that, but as well as he's playing and the numbers that he's putting up, do not be surprised if eventually he departs LouCity.
Yep, very possible. Former young player of the year in the league, Wilson Harris. We'll see. I mean, immediate returns, Dev. Louisville plays Charleston. It was Phil the Fam night, approaching 15,000 in the stadium. Didn't quite set the team record. It's now 5 games winning for Louisville, their longest streak in over 2 years. Jansen Wilson scores again. They've moved him higher up the field. They've got a dearth of depth at outside back, which maneuvers him higher. Adrian Perez is back. Brian Omby's back maybe in a month, possibly. Louisville rolling in the Eastern Conference final rematch. And a little payback from April.
I would say the biggest thing for me wasn't necessarily that Louisville were that good. It's that they were that good at removing the Charleston Battery being relevant. And there is a difference in that. You know, the Battery really struggled to get any sort of foothold within the midfield, so much so that they made a change at halftime. They take Emilio Icaza off. They bring Jay Chapman in. It gave them a little bit more aggression. They could run off of a single pivot, and that helped them. But there is a level of energy that is far beyond contagious for this LouCity team. Opening 20 minutes, an absolute nightmare. They're rewarded for their efforts with a goal from a set piece opportunity. Probably could have been 3 at that point in time with the amount of chances that they created. Same conversation in the second half, albeit towards the dying end of the match. 16 goals in the final 15 minutes of a game. 16 goals, Mike, for Louisville City. That's number 1 in the USL Championship. Do you know who has 15? The Charleston Battery. That's the finite amount that we're being separated with at this point in time. LouCity, although sitting on the 1-goal lead, they have 2 in the dying moments. They were very, very good. They had control of the game throughout its entirety, and they kicked Charleston Battery off the park. Really clear, although I do think Louisville are the best team in the USL Championship. I don't even think it's a conversation. Friendly reminder, and this isn't a poke at you whatsoever, you and I both watched the Charleston Battery play Louisville City off the park in early April. Now, understanding that that was on very short rest, they played at CBS on a Saturday. They played Tuesday night at Charleston. There's travel. You have to recoup yourself from a physical standpoint, but the rubber match is going to be a very interesting one. Fingers crossed that we absolutely get it.
Yep, if we get it. 3-game stretch now by Louisville. Dev, win at New Mexico. They're number 1 in the West. Win at home against Sacramento handily at the end. Number 2 seed in the West. And then they demolish this Battery team, number 2 in the East. Is that the best 3-game run, 10-day stretch in league history? Because it's damn screw it. I'll say it. It is the best.
It is
We've
the best.
never seen someone knock down 3 pins like that.
No, statistically, unless I've gotten my math wrong, which on air, on the fly, I happen to do so. But going and looking, I went all the way back to 2011. I have not found that stretch ever completed in the history of the USL Championship. Someone went so far as to say on Twitter and social media as to whether or not this was the best run in North American soccer history. I cannot confirm nor deny, because I wasn't alive when Beckenbauer and Paley were running the ranks in NASL. We don't talk about that because it didn't happen because we weren't there. We're talking about the modern era, 2011 on, and at this point in time, yes, it is the best run in USL Championship history.
Dev, I was speaking of numbers, looking at Miami, you and I both. Let's go from best to worst in the league for a moment. Miami is minus 36 in goal difference. They only have 8 points through 24 games, only 2 wins, of course. Louisville, as good as they are, plus 32 in goal difference. So for Miami to be that bad and more, at least in that category, shocking. I looked at the worst independent records in championship history. You go to Hartford last year, they finished minus 39 on just 18 points. Richmond minus 50 in 2018. Tulsa that year minus 41. Tulsa in 2016, they made the playoffs in between, minus 39. Miami's got a long way to go, and they aren't getting better.
They're the worst team we've seen in USL Championship history.
It's very possible.
That's not a statistical anomaly. The eye test passes it as well. It's terrible. And I hate saying it. I do, but that is where we are headed right now. Are we giving out a wooden spoon award, or do we get to, since nobody else has asked us what the worst team in USL Championship history would be called, can we make up a name and can we poll the fans and ask them what it should be called?
That's a wooden ladle. I mean, spoon, come on. That's just for the year.
Lay it on.
Yeah.
I have something to add about Louisville, but I'm going to wait till we bring it back around because I have a really good idea coming back from break on how to phrase something to you about that run of form that we just saw over that 3-game stretch.
All right. We've got plenty more to talk about before we go to break. Congratulations to everyone at Super League, Amanda and Betsy and everybody. 3 sellouts, 3 games. Carolina sent, awesome atmosphere, packed out the stadium in Charlotte, win, clean sheet. 6 of the 8 teams kicked off on Peacock over the weekend, and continue to wish them all the best as they've only just begun to scratch the surface in Super League now. When we come back, Bobby Dulle joins us. He is the president of Phoenix Rising. You aren't going to want to miss a very long, wide-ranging conversation with one of the great executives in the league. It's coming up after this.
Let's get back to USL All Access on Sirius XM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back, everybody, to USL All Access on this Tuesday night. As promised, Phoenix Rising president Bobby Dulle joining us. He joined the club in 2016, moved up to the general managership in 2018, president in early 2023. When he got there, it was the doormat, Arizona United. He's turned them into the Phoenix Rising powerhouse that we know, most of us love, and some of us appreciably hate. The 2023 championship winner, Bobby Dulle, joins us on the program. Bobby, did I hit all the high points?
I think you did, and a couple of low points, but that's why I love being with you guys.
Appreciate you joining, and this is a long overdue chat. I want to start from 30,000 feet because when you took over the club, expectations were non-existent. It was a group that was still trying to find their way when you arrived as the COO. When I spoke to Diego Gomez when he first took over as your interim manager, one of the first things he said to me was the concept of this is a big club and that comes with the weight of expectations. I'd love for you to sort of describe that transition to the point you guys are at now, where I'm sure you feel the weight of expectation from your fan base, from everyone in the league, that this is supposed to be a perennial title contender.
Yeah, I think it goes back to, when the new ownership came in late 2016, and just the groundwork that they laid at that point, the fact that we wanted to have our own home, establish that, a soccer-specific stadium, which at the time was even more rare in the USL. So, and then you look at the players that we signed in the first full year, and you look at, whether it be Omar Bravo or Sean Wright Phillips, and last but not least, of course, Didier Drogba. And I think that showed the intent, and having those types of players in our locker room just really, professionalize us, put us on a fast track, and ultimately, laid the foundation for how we're going to operate as an organization. And expectations from that day forward were that we want to put a winner on the field and try to be the gold standard both on and off the field, from business metrics all the way to winning trophies. And so we've had a lot of success. We've been able to attract a lot of talent, and then it comes back down to, I think, to our fans. I think we have the best fans. They have very high expectations, as do we at the club, and we hold each other accountable, and we both are pushing. We're both very passionate about what we do, and we're excited about what we've been able to do, but I think there's still a lot to be written in Phoenix Rising's story.
Bobby, some of the noise about maybe those expectations from the fans, certainly they came to the frontal lobe, if you will, last year. For people that lived under a rock over the latter portion of the season, that turned out just fine. And so a lot of similarities were drawn on that aspect. But I go player specific here, and you and I have had a ton of conversations about this. It started at the top, right? First, it was Juan Guerra and his opportunity to progress his future, going to as an assistant coach to the Houston Dynamo. Players, Darnell King, while statistically maybe not the one that everybody points out, the spine of that team, the only remaining member from the squads that saw those crazy runs of success, and certainly to the 2020 final. Danny Trejo, Arteaga, Carlos Harvey, one of the best players on that team. That spine comprised of backbone and winners, right? Guys that just wanted to go and find a way to get a result. And so you're navigating these times right now. You're trying to bring in more talent. You're trying to chase a coach. We'll get there in a second. How do you mid-season reestablish that, like that, to try and find success immediately, to kind of make everybody happy, not just the fans, but the guys that are currently there as well, right?
Yeah, it's difficult, and we've done it before. We've had some challenging times. It hasn't always been, rainbows and sunshine out here at Phoenix Rising. And yes, we've had some success. We've ups and downs. This year in particular, it was an opportunity for some guys to grow and develop on the field and assume some roles. We left some, to me, arguably two of the best players in the league last year in Danny Trejo and Carlos Harvey. And there's a reason that one's playing in Europe and another one is consistently starting for his team in MLS, and also, played a lot of minutes at the recent Copa America tournament. So we want to be an environment that continues to attract top talent, but we also want to be an environment that lets people grow and develop. And when opportunities present themselves, they're not always ideal for the organization, they're ideal for the individual. And that doesn't stop on the field, whether it be coaches, front office. There's handful of front office staff members that are now working in other leagues, that are working in England, that have gone and moved on. Something I'm most proud of is the amount of equipment managers and team administrators and people in our front office that continue to grow and develop at Phoenix Rising, but move forward and move on. And I'm very excited about that, to allow people to continue to grow and develop. And sometimes when change happens, it doesn't click right away. And we watched and we saw that over the first half of this season, and it just wasn't working for a variety of reasons. And we, elected to make the change in the head coach position. And still, when you bring in a new coach, they all have different ideas. Danny Stone had different ideas than Juan Guerra. Juan Guerra had different ideas than Rick Schantz, and so on and so forth. And they look for different profiles. They look for different things out of players tactically. And so that's what we're doing right now. The opportunity, what we set out for at the beginning of the year, to win trophies, there's still an opportunity for us. And so now, as we look to see what we have to do, this is an organization that's not afraid to make bold changes, to bring in new players. And that's something that we're doing right now. And we're excited about a couple of the pieces we brought in the last month or so that fit a little bit more to Diego's style and what he's looking for on the field. And I think that we got another move up our sleeve later on in the week as well. So we're going to keep pushing. We only know one way, and that's to keep working really hard. And we're going to treat people the right way. We're going to give people opportunities. And if we don't get it right, which we won't, we'll make mistakes as an organization. But I can tell you that we're just as passionate. We have just as high as expectations as we did when Didier Drogba signed. And as long as I'm here, that's going to be the mantra here, is to keep pushing and trying to get better each and every day.
Didier Drogba, Chris Cortez, Jason Johnson, Junior Fleming, Solomon Asante, Adam John. The list goes on and on and on. I could probably continue to rattle off names. That's how great you guys have been with players on the field. But to your point, that's not the only thing. I think people from afar don't recognize, even some of the people that are diehards within the club, how cherry-picked you have been. And it's a great problem to have, but talent identification, both in the front office and the technical area and players, it's something that you guys always kind of set the standard for within the USL Championship. I guess my question would be is, while immediately people are looking for results here, if you take a step back from it, you've always been in the forefront of that major advancement. What is the next step for Phoenix Rising and the USL Championship to push that threshold even further when we talk about that identification and talent?
Yeah, I think you look across the league and the types of coaches, the sporting directors, the investment that ownership is making. We're continuing to attract top talent. That's why you look at the table in the West right now. It's all over the map. It's everyone's kind of bunched up, and each and every game to me is almost a coin flip. And that's just because the level's risen. The tactical acumen of the coaches that are here now, the talent of the players. You see players that have played big time minutes overseas, whether that's youth players, younger players, older players. So I think for us, we need to continue to grow and develop, and that's build out our infrastructure, whether that be analysts, whether that be scouts, whether that be different types of players, things that we can differentiate ourselves to be more attractive. We have a fantastic fan base. We have a wonderful market. We have a proven success of bringing players in and moving them on to higher levels. So we have a lot of things that make us attractive, but that doesn't mean we can settle and just think it's going to continue to happen. We have to keep challenging each other and keep trying to build out the infrastructure of the club so that we can identify players, whether those be youth or those be players that are experienced, or they have certain KPIs that we're looking for from the coaching staff. Because what we hope to happen is that we continue to attract coaches that continue to develop and grow. We continue to bring in players that are here for 6 months, 18 months, whatever it may be, that grow and move on. And that helps us get the next player and the next player and the next coach and the next coach, because it's a market and an environment that people can come. They'll be challenged. Nothing is handed out to them. They're going to be held accountable. There's pressure. There's pressure on our players right now. There's pressures on me. There's pressures on the coaches right now to get results for our fans, because we know how much they care. They travel on road trips. They're here for us, but they are critical, and as they should be, because their expectations are high. So this is an environment where players can come in and they know that they're going to have to work for everything they get. They know that the other teams are going to step up and want to beat Phoenix Rising. People really enjoy knocking Phoenix Rising down. So that's the type of player. It's a strong character. It's got to be a strong environment that anyone that wants to join this organization knows that they got to put forth an effort every day, because people are chomping on all of us right now to take our spot.
Speaking with Phoenix Rising President Bobby Dulle, Phoenix Rising in the Western Conference of the USL Championship, currently sitting on 26 points. 10th in the table. That is a very clustered table in the West, though. The Wild West, once again, only 1 point off a playoff spot. Friendly reminder to everybody at home that the big bad wolf is still laying and waiting. I want to go back to the coaches here for a second. You kind of talked about that. Juan Guerra, as mentioned earlier, departs for Houston Dynamo and MLS in the offseason, becomes the assistant coach under Ben Olsen. Danny Stone, named the manager, takes over. He then departs the club June 29th of this year, basically going 500, 566. Diego Gomez takes over. The tenure smaller in nature. Question would be, what does the future look like at the head coaching position? I know because of that fan base and because of that success, the expectation is win now. But you've also never been one to jump the gun unnecessarily. I know you're very detailed. You make sure that the move that is the next one is always the right one. And historically, you guys have been able to do that.
Yeah, for right now, Diego's the interim through the end of the year. We're not going to bring on another coach, barring something completely unexpected, to run the team. So it's Diego's job right now through the end of the season. Diego's a candidate to be named the permanent head coach. We have other candidates that we've also talked to. There's a lot of conversations taking place. But Diego's got a real opportunity, and I think we're showing that as an organization that we're not giving up on this season. We're continuing to bring in the likes of Charlie Dennis. We brought into the group. We went out and acquired him, who was an all-league player last year. We went out and got Tomas Angel on loan from LAFC, who's had an unbelievable career thus far, and he's only 20 years old. We announced a player that we brought in from Europe last week that brings characteristics that we didn't have in the current roster, and those are the reason we're doing that is not only for the future but for the now. Those are players that we think can really help us right now. They have different qualities. So for us, we're not going to get complacent. We're not going to throw in the towel and say, hey, we're going to start preparing for 2025. We have to continue building, and we have to trust our process. Diego's been very involved in all of those acquisitions that I just mentioned, and recruiting those players and having the final say on, hey, these are the qualities that I'm looking for. They'll help us out. So our process continues to evolve and grow, but Diego's been very instrumental in the acquisition of those players that we brought in, and we'll see, again, how this goes. And you look at some of the new pieces that come in and some of the direction and changes that we've made as on the field tactically. Yes, it's bunched up right now in the West. We still feel that we have a real opportunity, and we got to start producing and get these pieces to gel together quickly. And that's a tough task for Diego and the coaching staff right now. But I know he's rolled up his sleeves, and from day one he's been all in, and he's given everything he can for this badge. And I know he's fighting just like every player in that locker room. The team is very together right now. They're very close. We took a trip on our bye week this past weekend. It was good. And I think as long as the group is staying together, they have a clear direction. They have a clear understanding of what's being asked of them on the field right now. Now it's got to come together, and we got to start, it starts with Saturday against North Carolina, but we got to start putting some goals in the back of the net and being more dangerous in the final third.
Bobby Dulle joining us. He's the president of Phoenix Rising. But before we get back on track, you say trip over the bye week. I heard about, was it the Drogba cookouts that occurred in 2017? Players would land there from time to time. Like, yeah. What's a bye week trip look like for Phoenix Rising?
Not quite the Drogba cookout. He's overseas right now, so I don't think that we could have gotten everyone overseas in our bye week. But definitely some fun over the years. Again, you have some real characters, guys that tremendous backgrounds. Those were some fun days when you're running around with Sean Wright Phillips and Peter Ramich and Jordan Stewart, who's now a coach at Monterey. I mean, you start looking at some of the names that were around that team. What a locker room, and so much fun for some of those guys like Chris Cortez and some of these other players to get a chance to share a locker room and some extracurricular time with the boys. A lot of stories to be told there, but probably not for this broadcast. But no, we wanted to keep getting these guys together again with some of the new pieces that are here, get to know each other and continue to stay close. And continue to understand what's being asked of them. And I think that just continues to show our commitment that it wasn't just a bye week. It was a week where work needed to be done, chemistry needed to be built, relationships needed to be strengthened, and understanding needed to continue to be gained for us. So we took a little trip over to Southern California this past week, a little cooler climate than out here in Phoenix. And it was a way for the boys to be together, no distractions, and train on the road for a little bit, and hopefully come back renewed, refreshed, and ready to roll, heading into training tomorrow and into a match week on Saturday.
Love that. Great way to push into the final third of the season. Before, and I know Devin wants to chat about some of the signings you made through this window. As you look back at the first 2/3 of the season, so much of this got dictated to you, right? Wangera leaves very late in the process. Players that you would have had under contract for this year that were major pieces end up getting opportunities elsewhere, and it's vital, as you mentioned earlier, to give them that runway to do so. Are there regrets that you have from the opening, let's call it 2/3 of the season, or is the circumstance around it more what dictated the position you currently sit in?
Yeah, no, I have no regrets. To me, I know us as an organization. I know that we've had a plan, we've had a process, we've gone about things the right way. Obviously, sports are sports. It's the best reality television out there. You can't predict what's happening. You can't predict that you're going to win 20 games in a row like we did in 2019. For us, I'm confident, the decisions that we made. I'm confident in how we built this roster going into this season, alongside Wangera and the profiles that kind of fit his game model. I'm very supportive of Juan. He's a close friend of mine, and I wish him nothing but the best. We talk all the time, and I'm happy for him and his family that he continued to grow and that opportunity presented itself. Timing wasn't great for us once again, but it wasn't something that we as an organization were going to stand in the way of. And so you have players, right? And similar, you look at the positions that the Danny Trejos or the Carlos Harveys exited, right? And we did our best to identify players. We also had players under contract that helped us win last year, and were instrumental in our success. And for whatever reason, it just, it didn't come together the way we had hoped. And I think what I hope people appreciate is we recognize that. And again, people don't have to agree with the decisions that we've made, but we saw that it wasn't working. And we made some changes. We're not, opposed to making tough decisions, decisions that we know we're going to be criticized for, but decisions that came with support from ownership all the way through, and they weren't off the cuff or reactionary. There was a reason why we made those decisions, and so I'm very proud of our organization, because for many years we have made difficult decisions, or we brought in players at times when we thought we didn't need to bring in players. So we'll continue to be bold, and we'll make decisions that people shouldn't nor will they always agree with. But I don't have any regrets, because the opportunities present itself. I can't tell you how happy I was to sit down with Carlos Harvey and let him know about some of the offers that were coming in. And I told Carlos Harvey when he was with LA Galaxy, and we bought him from LA Galaxy. And I told him, I said, you come to Phoenix Rising and you spend time with us, we'll get you into the national team, and we're going to get you back to MLS. And he came out, he balled out. He had unbelievable, I think he was the best player in the final. He was fantastic for us. And you look what he's doing now. He's gotten in better shape, and he's played consistent games, and he played in Copa America for Panama. Danny Trejo, right? Same thing. We knew what we were getting ourselves into, but look what he was, a true difference maker on the field. And those are tough to find. Those types of players are difficult to find and identify and bring in. So very happy that we had those guys. Happy for Manu Arteaga. I just saw him last week. Unbelievable guy. Was fantastic for the locker room for reasons that we won't go into, but it was an opportunity for him and his wife. And we talked through that with Juan at the time and made that decision. And of course, he was very productive for us, but I have nothing but love for that guy, and I'm a huge fan for him. Although I wish I would have put a bonus in for every penalty kick he makes this year, because he's certainly been on fire from the spot. But so no, I'm happy for those guys. Those relationships are important to me, and people's individual success is just as important. So no regrets, Mike. We keep pushing forward. Of course, I wish results were different. I wish things would have worked out differently for guys like Danny Stone. Danny's was tremendous for the organization. We were not Phoenix Rising without the success or without the work that he put into this organization and the professionalism. And I certainly wish him no different than Manu or Eddie or Danny or any of these guys. Harvey. I wish him the same amount of success as he moves forward as well.
Bobby, while I understand it's probably a logistical nightmare to weave through the red tape and bring back dollar beer night. My question is selfish in nature, and it actually rests on the shirt that I have on now. Where do we stand on the legal battle for trademark infringement and my use of gold puffy paint to put a star above the dollar beer nights here?
You're welcome, my friend, to put that on there as long as you rep it with pride and remember where that all started years ago. And again, that's one of those things you just can't manufacture. It just kind of happened organically. And those as you can see with my face, that brings a smile to my face because those were some times I just don't know if something like that will ever kind of collide, which is the dollar beer nights, which is the win streak that we put together in such dramatic fashion. Those were a lot of fun times, and of course we're still working just as hard to get better and try to replicate those things. But I don't know if we'll ever see that again. That type of run and that marriage of a unique promotion and winning on the field.
No, because with inflation, it's going to be $1.75 beer night. I hate to
Exactly.
say.
$175 beer night.
Yeah, we do have another dollar beer night coming up here in early September. So you're welcome to if both of you can find some time to come out here and take the night off.
I'd love to. I don't know if you saw that the Raiders have their bottle service menu released this week, but I'd love to buy a $3,000 bottle of something from you guys and sit pitchside. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
That's Watts's USL contract compared to mine, by the way. I'm on the dollar beer night. My man's sitting pitch side getting bottle service.
That's me out of money. Get
good
the hell
for you,
out of
buddy.
here.
Let's talk about your agent when we get off this chat. Bobby, fair to say, as this window closes, this transfer market window closes, and everybody is kind of clamoring for those big signings. For every player that you sign, there are dozens that we don't know about, right? That you're kicking the tires on, and eventually just it doesn't pan out. Can you kind of give us an idea of what that looks like for you guys and how much effort goes in?
Yeah, I'll give you a little story. Before we signed Tomas Angel on loan from LAFC, we were working on a striker overseas, and he's playing in European qualifiers right now, and had everything agreed to. He's out of contract in 6 months, and we were gonna finalize a deal with him, but he had to play the road leg, and they had to win the road leg in order to advance. And if they advanced, we weren't going to get the player. So everything was done. The player was excited. We've had multiple conversations, a striker with a different profile. And 3 minutes into the match, he scored a goal on the road and they won 1-0. So it just is a small example of that. Of course, that player didn't come to fruition. We didn't bring that player on board. But you're right. We have been swinging the bat. We constantly are trying to get better. Players that come here know that they're going to continue to be challenged. Nothing's given to them. It's why, over the years, I think back in 2020, we were pretty solid. We made it to the final that year. We brought Damian Lowe in September, right? A bona fide center back that starts every game now at MLS level, national team player, captain for Jamaica. So we're going to continue to do that. Last year, we made some changes we felt we needed. Babu Njai, a quality player out on the wing, very dangerous for us. We made that change, brought in Darius Formella. So for us, we're going to, for every player, like a Formella that we brought in, or a Charlie Dennis, or a Tomas Angel, there's a player that I mentioned over in Europe. And so I think that's what we'll continue to do. Obviously the window closes. We got one more player announcement that we brought in that's going to be announced later on in the week, which we're excited about. But yeah, it's not easy to get things across the line. But I can tell you that it's no shortage of hard work by our team, by our coaching staff, going through hours and hours of film, having hours and hours of phone calls with agents, with players, with coaches, trying to identify players that can continue to come into Phoenix Rising, raise the level, and help us achieve what we set out for at the beginning of each and every year.
Bobby, last one. I want to step away from the organization and go team specific, but outside of Phoenix Rising.
Okay.
Mike Watts and I always talk about the greats around this league. We always talk about teams creating separation for themselves. For us, this really feels like the first year since that 20-game win streak in 2019 where we feel one team is just so far ahead of the pack in Louisville City. We saw it the year prior of you guys in 19 and 18 with the FC Cincinnati team. A couple of years prior to that, there had always been one, but since 19, we haven't really had that. Do you feel that way about Louisville? And out of curiosity, where do you kind of rank them historically against some of the great teams, your 2019 included, and kind of where they fit within that conversation right now, albeit the season's not over?
Yeah, no, I want to be careful here because we still have some games left against some formidable opponents. But it would be, wrong of me not to give the flowers where flowers are due right now. And Danny Cruz and Louisville are fantastic. They're fun to watch. They continue to push. You look at the experience they have. You look at some of the youth that continues to produce at a really high level right now. And I love what they've done, right? They went out, not only are they pretty far ahead in the East right now. They went out and signed Phil Goodram last week. That just shows their intention. And I think that speaks volume to this league, that everyone continues to not be satisfied. And again, whether that's facility improvement, whether that's training fields or game fields that people are doing, the types of players that are being purchased from overseas, the sales that are happening. But when you see a team like Louisville, that to me, they are the gold standard from what they've built there, their stadium, their facility. They got a wonderful women's program. They got a great youth program. And they continue to win year in and year out, and they're not satisfied. So that just makes me even more motivated as an executive in this league, that we have to continue to push as well as an organization to catch up with them and do what they're doing. And so I really admire they're a joy to watch. When you add a Philip Goodram to a Wilson Harris up top, like that's a deadly duo that we know how hard they're going to work. We know Danny's had a tremendous amount of success here. So as far as where they rank historically, that's hard to say. I always, you hear that, whether that's dream teams or, the Bulls of this year versus the Bulls of the past, like that type of stuff. It's hard for me to say, where that stacks up, but they got a great coach. They clearly are a group that is motivated to continue to raise the level every day, with the likes of bringing in players like Philip Goodram. They got veterans that have won year in and year out. So I think they have all the ingredients to be there right there at the end, and also a team that, if they continue to push forward at the rate they're pushing, if you want to chalk them up historically to FC Cincinnati, to the Phoenix Rising in 2019, but I also know what Phoenix Rising in 2019 didn't do. So 20 wins is great. A great regular season is fantastic. Team MVP, league MVP is awesome. Dramatic victories, it's all fantastic, but this is American sports, right? And ultimately, if you're the 6th seed in 2023 and you get into the playoffs and go on a pretty dramatic run, you can put a star, whether that be in gold puffy paint or whether that be embroidered on our jerseys, right there in stone. So those guys are awesome. I love watching them. It's fantastic to watch in their environment, in their stadium, the way they play. They got it going. I really admire them. I would have loved to see if there's a way that you can arrange for a game of 2019 Phoenix Rising versus modern day Louisville, but I'll settle for October 26th. We play at Louisville. Let's hope that means is our final test before the playoffs. And you never know, once you get in the playoffs, maybe we could finish the regular season in Louisville and the postseason in Louisville.
Ooh, I like that.
Got hot in this room.
As always, the ever competitive, hardest working guy in the sport, Bobby Dulle, joining us, president of Phoenix Rising. It was long, but I'd like to think it was worth it. Appreciate the fireside chat. Wishing you all the best, and hopefully you guys come back rejuvenated and ready to roll for the back half of the year.
Thanks, gentlemen. Always great being with you guys.
Miss any part of this interview, available on YouTube tomorrow, also on the Sirius XM app. Until then, we've got plenty more coming up on the show after this.
Giving insight to all the biggest moments in Championship and League One. This is USL All Access on Sirius XM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
We're back on USL All Access. Missed any part of that great interview with the Phoenix Rising president, Bobby Dulle? It's available tomorrow on the USL YouTube page or on the Sirius XM app. Mike and Devon back with you. Let's chat first about something you saw on social media that piqued your interest, raised your eyebrow. Devon, Indy to CONCACAF Champions Cup, is it far-fetched at this point?
No. In terms of the rules that have been put in front of us for the winners-ish, Fabian Rinkel posted an interesting tweet on Twitter, and he said, in theory, potentially, Indy 11 is 1 win away from a CONCACAF Champions Cup berth. Well, Devon, if they're playing in the semifinal, how is that possible? I'll tell you how, Mike, because the Leagues Cup awards the top 3. the top 3 finishers, and there is a third place game, they get automatic berths into the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Well, LAFC just smashed Seattle Sounders to get into the semifinals, which means they're already one of the top 4. So if they beat the Colorado Rapids, they get into the Leagues Cup final. There's their CONCACAF Champions Cup berth. Stay with me on this one. If LAFC then win their Open Cup semifinal, which is also against the Seattle Sounders team they just beat 3-0, LAFC, their bid is bypassed and it goes to the runner-up, meaning in that situation, an LAFC win in Leagues Cup to get to the final 3, we'll say, an LAFC win in Open Cup semifinals, and an Indy 11 semifinal win against Sporting Kansas City. The runner-up position would automatically go to Indy, assuming they didn't win the whole damn thing. And oh, by the way, people at home saying, oh, well, LAFC still have to win. You're right. But just so that you understand this, not only did they just beat the Seattle Sounders 3-0, LAFC only have 4 losses on the year, and they've never lost back-to-back games. Margins may be slim for some. They've got plenty of opportunity to get this job done, and that just feels like maybe this could be leaning towards Indy 11 in the CONCACAF Champions Cup.
I would love that, and also at the price that CONCACAF now pays, you can bet your bottom dollar I will not be calling it. There, I said it. All right.
Across the bow?
Yeah, well, the bow actually has a new captain, so I'm a little less concerned about it.
Mike, yes or no? If Indy 11 get into the CONCACAF Champions Cup, forget you and I calling a game. We are going to one.
We're going, but we aren't going to Indy.
So there.
We're going to Honduras.
And we're getting the McRib while we're in Indy while we're at it, which we never got in 2019.
I'm not going to Indy. I'm going to Jamaica or Honduras or wherever they get shipped in the preliminary
You don't want to
round.
watch Motagua on a defensight masterpiece?
In Honduras.
They're not letting us across the border, bro.
Oh, God. All right. Let's chat about a couple of results from the week that was. You and I called it on CBS Sports Network on Wednesday. Sacramento beats El Paso, but Nick Ross loses to the crossbar. 2-0. Phillips gets a goal. Jared Timmer, first pro goal. Pretty cool. El Paso, season low 4 shots. Well done, Sacramento. They go into a bye week. Dev, the most wild part of this is Nick Ross hit the woodwork 3 different times. It's been half a decade since we've seen that.
Yeah, it was second most times ever in a single game, by the way, in USL Championship history. He was very, very good. And, we talked about recreating the absence of Roro Lopez. Nick Ross, over the last, 5 matches now, dating back to the Oakland Roots match, he's been a large part of that. Great chance creation, the balance that he gives in the midfield, and finally starting to creating for himself in the final third. 3 separate chances, all off the bar, but something that Mark Briggs is going to look at. They'll have a laugh in the locker room, but he's also going to go, oh, wow, wait a second. We might have something here. That's what I've been looking for.
Yep. A couple other results to make mention of from the weekend. Pittsburgh, Colorado Springs, what a game it was alongside the Monongahela. Pittsburgh stays 5 points off the playoff line. They go ahead 90+1 from Suber, but Delence Pierre scores the equalizer for the Switchbacks in 90+6. Hartford ends Las Vegas's 11-game unbeaten run. Vegas led that game 10 minutes in, but Mamadou Zhang and Mishi Galina both score. Rhode Island do salvage a point against Oakland with an 87th minute Dequa game-tying goal. Neville Hackshaw both scored and was sent off in that game. El Paso gets a win against Orange County. Look, good for Calvillo, game winner from the spot. That's fantastic. Orange County has not scored in their last 4 games, 3 losses and a draw in that time, and they are hanging right at the playoff line. But Dev, Loudon sweeping the season series against the Rowdies piqued your interest, and the Rowdies had a chance to go pull within 6 of Charleston and don't do it. So the Rowdies 9 points back of second, 2 games in hand. They play again September 21st. What do you make of the game?
When we were without your services a couple of weeks back, we had Joe Malfa on, and we went through the top 8 in the East and West, who would stay, who would go, and I said that Loudon would stay. Joe agreed with me, and that if anyone was going to fall, it would be Detroit. Forget who's going to come up. The reason I said that is the quality of talent, the understanding of the young players that have been coming through Loudon United, and also combining that together, gaining some confidence and getting a goal scorer. Ryan up top in the 9, Zach Ryan, love what he did at Stanford, love what he's doing now. All of a sudden, you're looking at a guy He shouldn't be a double-digit goal scorer. This guy should be pushing the threshold of 15-plus goals every season, and it's the quality of chance creation. It's the committal of numbers coming forward. You've got Tommy McCabe within the midfield, controlling the strings. You can play below high. You can play him low. There is such a balance about this team right now that regardless of age or talent of player, there's a consistency that Ryan Martin is bringing off the training ground onto the pitch, and all of a sudden, everything that we talked about in years past, how they didn't have the right talent, how they didn't have the right age of players, that's not what we were saying. That's what everybody else was saying. They said, give it some time. Let Ryan Martin get his hands on some of those pieces to bring in and watch the results start to matriculate into the table. Absolutely. Currently sitting 7th. Love it.
Yep, they're doing it. All right, when we come back, plenty of transactions around the league. We'll chat about as many as we can fit in next on USL All Access.
You're listening to USL All Access on Sirius XM FC. Here are your hosts, Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back to USL All Access as we slide through the rest of the league news of the week that was. San Antonio brought in Jesus Briguito from Chivas, immediately scores the game winner against North Carolina. He's a Mexican under 23, so I'm going to keep an eye on. Tolan Shoemi is going overseas to Crawley Town in League One. He wasn't playing at Louisville. London native, English passport, that all plays a role. Dayon Harris, last week, news came out. He'll miss the remainder of the season, start of next year due to an ACL tear that he suffered in training at New Mexico. Las Vegas, Dev, continues to add, this time in the front office. How about Sean McIntosh named the CEO? He'll move into market in September. He worked with the Aces previously in the WNBA. He was at Charlotte FC, Houston for a stint in ticketing. He's going to report directly to Jose Bautista and oversee the entire business op.
We can argue that the biggest area of necessity at this point in time for Las Vegas is definitely on the business side of things and getting away from some of the shenanigans that were parlor tricks at best. You know, out of all due respect to the previous regime, it wasn't benefiting that team whatsoever. So it's a very smart move. And certainly with the success that has been for Charlotte FC, can't wait to see what he brings to that organization because it should give them a proper boost. They're not struggling on the field whatsoever.
Few other notes around managerial moves. Rafa Baca leaving Monterey Bay just a week after Frank Yallop's departure and Jordan Stewart's appointment as the new manager there. One Knoxville parts ways with Mark McKeever, a bit of a surprise. Also, welcome back to Landon Donovan to the coaching circle. He leads San Diego Wave the remainder of the year. Jack Harlow buying into the Louisville City ownership group, also owns now a piece of Racing Louisville and NWSL. Manu Ginobili sighting at the San Antonio game. Dev, speaking of cross-sport athletes, Brandon Aubrey hit a 66-yard field goal at Vegas with the Dallas Cowboys this past weekend. Former TFC2 guy. In your prime, what's the longest field goal you could kick?
Prime?
Prime.
Oh, I have no problem saying that I could have hit from 60 plus.
Whoa.
Hit 59 in high school, and
Woo!
that wasn't my prime. So wasn't kicking off a tee either. Let's be clear about that. All you guys in high school, quit kicking off the tee. That's important. Mike, I got a question for you, though. This is an interesting one, and I know we're tight on time, but before we close things out here, you know, back in May, I'm looking at the tweet now, May 18th, Andrew Austin, great supporter of Louisville City. He tweeted at us and said, is this the best LouCity team of their 10-year run? And we said, way too early to answer. There's a lot to go on, blah, blah, blah. He circled back and said, how about answering this now? So my question to you, 1A and 1B. 1A, is this the best LouCity team of their 10-year run?
They still need to win something.
Thank you very much. 1B, would you rather boss the regular season and then bow out, or finish well in the regular season, not necessarily rewrite the record books and then go win a title? Because I can tell you, Bobby Dulle, who we just talked to, said that 2019 team was something special, and they didn't win a title. That 2018 team of FC Cincinnati, they didn't win a title. So, Mike, where do your morals lie in that conversation?
Any other country, regular season. Here, playoff.
100% agree with you. So you got a little bit more work to do. While they're incredible, while they're the best team in the league right now, 10-year run, unless you got a star above your crest in Bourbontown, it doesn't mean anything.
Yep. Dev, did you learn anything from this show?
I learned that it is possible that I might still come out and have an NFL kicking career. I do have an orthopedic specialist appointment next week, so some time to tell on that one. True story.
Yep. I didn't learn a lot from this show, but I did want to take a moment. My wife and I and my mother-in-law, it's like the dog had joint custody. We lost our bulldog on Sunday, and he was the most stubborn, kind, and cuddly dog that you'll ever run into. Now, I don't have time to go full Scott Van Pelt about how much I appreciate that animal. But yeah, if you can go, maybe give your dog a hug. I know, Dev, you've got two.
Say no more, man.
This week is hurt. This week has hurt a lot.
They're furry friends. They're friends for a reason because they're family. Yeah, and it matters. And we appreciate you and all the time that you give. Certainly that he gave to us. A few moments where he was kind enough to grace us with his presence, and usually somewhere down around your feet, some awkward noises in the background, certainly some interesting smells. We assumed that it wasn't you, Mike, but someone that I know that I had a lot of involvement with. You and I shared some great laughs, and those are, although difficult memories to deal with now, they're memories for a reason because you care so much. Our love's with you, buddy. Stay strong.
Yep. We'll miss him. Bailey was 12. What a dog. All right. We'll be back next week. Open Cup Mania, USL results to boot. Thanks for listening. For Devin, Emmett, Mike, and Bailey, I guess. So long for now.
This is USL All Access. If you missed any portion of the program, listen back anytime on the SXM app.